Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I'm joined by the amazing Knight Taylor. How you doing today, Knight?
I'm doing great, man. It's really an honor to be here. Like I told you before, it's really an honor.
Oh man, I'm so excited we were finally able to make this happen. A little bit about Knight. He's a huge horror movie fan, especially in the horror genre. He's the content creator and host of the Nightwatch Zone channel. Multiple times every week, they do movie reviews, live shows, community collaborations that mirror a passion of film and sharing it with people. And here's the best part about it. You don't got to search for it because all the links are right down here in the description, not only for the Night Zone Watch, but as well as the social media links. They're all right down here. So I invite you to click these, check him out, enjoy what he does. So what can you tell us a little bit about what you have coming up here in the near future?
Well, right now we're pretty much about a third of the way into our Friday the 13th series review, which Friday the 13th is one of my favorite franchises, as well as for my co-hosts Coriander and Killian. And we had done the reviews of them a while back, almost about a year ago on my old channel, but we don't have that anymore. So now we're redoing them on the new channel. It's a blast, man. We're just having fun every Sunday, just memories of childhood, you know? So we're doing that on Sundays. On Monday nights, we're doing our slasher movie reviews where me and Coriander, we're going through as many of the slasher movies from that golden era, you know, late 70s through like 84. And so we do that on Mondays. And then on Friday nights, we're doing some type of monster themed episode review. So that's been a lot of fun too.
Man, that's so awesome. And so I got to ask you, I'll save that for later. I'll save that. I got a feather in the cap now. I got something to bring up later. So, you said the old channel got shut down. How long have you been doing the Nightwatch Zone, the podcast? How long has this been a thing for you?
We just crossed a year in December. Maybe it was November. So it's just been over a year. And it seems like it's been a lot longer than that, though. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, it's just been over a year. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a heck of a lot of learning.
Like and I completely get what you're saying there. Like, it's funny when I talk to people about, what do you do? I do stuff on YouTube. And they're like, oh, so you just make videos on YouTube? I'm like, slow down, hold on. You have no idea the stress and hard work that goes into editing and talking to guests and learning and writing scripts. And, don't get me wrong. It's not a job. I have so much fun doing this, and I would not change this for the world. But it is a huge pet peeve when people are like, oh, all you do is make videos. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch. Like,
right.
So like,
well,
hey,
I used to think that too, man.
Well, it's the thing. Like, oh, hey, I build houses. Oh, so you stand up walls? Like, come on, man. There's a whole lot more that goes into it than just standing a wall up, buddy.
Exactly, so man. It's crazy.
This is something that, a passion for both of us is horror movies. Now, we're going to get into how horror started for you here in a little bit, but has horror always been your favorite genre of film?
Well, I got started, loving horror when I was like, I don't even know, man. I might have been about 7 years old. 7 or 8. And before I got started loving horror, I was deathly afraid of horror. So it was not my favorite genre until I overcame that fear, and that was the big thing, is overcoming the fear of it. And once I overcame the fear, man, it was pedal to the metal,
Yeah. And it's still funny how, you were just talking about how you're doing, your Friday the 13th recaps. And it's funny to go back and rewatch some of these films as an adult, because when I was a kid, I fucking hated Part 5. Now it's one of my favorites.
Right?
Dude, it's so much fun. And the thing I hear a lot of is, oh, it's not Jason. I'm like, listen, it's Jason up until the last 30 seconds of the film. Okay, like, it's totally Jason Voorhees film. Like, don't give me the bullshit. I get the Roy Burns thing, Listen, man, this one's funny. This one has a lot of heart to it. Like the kills are great. I mean, I wish
Yeah.
the MPA wouldn't have killed it as much as they did, but man, 5 and 6, I
Oh
think, are
man,
so underrated in the franchise because of all the love that 4 gets.
they
So,
are.
but that's a conversation for
Yep.
another time. But we're already,
Yeah.
we're already knee deep in the water night. So let's just dive in, man. Let's go back to the past and talk about your first horror movie. Some of you guys may have figured this out by now, but Night, your first horror movie was.
Friday the 13th.
And we are talking
Yeah,
OG,
man,
right?
that was the beginning. Oh, of course. Oh, of course. We're going all the way back to 1980. We're going all the way back.
We're going back to the summer of 80 at Camp Crystal Lake. That's what we're doing right now. So I am your counselor, Ken Sledge, and let's talk Camp Crystal Lake. A movie
Nice.
that it's one of those movies that I love this movie for what it does, but it really, honestly, to me, doesn't hold up as well today as it did back when we had watched it originally. I'm not saying I hate it. I still like the film,
Right.
but I could have used a little cooler deaths. But before we get into deaths, do you remember who you were with the first time you had seen this?
Yes, myself. I was at home, and movies, they would have these marathons. It was around the end of October, so they were playing all these horror movies and stuff like that. And yeah, I just kind of sat there and I was like, wow, this thing is on TV. It's a horror movie. I'm scared as shit. What do I do? And I kept thinking to myself, let me try to watch it. Let me try to watch it. If I can get through it, then that's all good. So I actually sat there in my bedroom. My little brother, he was in his bedroom, so he was hiding. But yeah, I watched it, and yeah, it was scary at points, especially the stinger at the end. That actually, I literally jumped up at the end, right? But because I was still alive and still okay, it really taught me the lesson. It taught me the lesson that I could overcome it. So yeah, that's where it started, man.
So your first night definitely was A Long Night at Camp Blood.
It was.
For those of you that don't know, that was the original title of the film, A Long Night at Camp Blood. And I think that I'd love that title. And a little fun fact for all of you, I'll never forget the release date of the original Friday the 13th being May 9th, 1980. My son was born on May 9th. So my son was born the same day as one of the best slasher franchises in the world, in my opinion. Not the same year, but the same day. It would be weird for my son to be born 6 years before me. That's a Don't Be a Menace to South Central story right there. Now, we talk about Friday the 13th, the OG, and how effective this movie truly is. It's such an effective movie. The first time you watch it, especially. Do you remember which scene it was, Night, that affected you the most?
Well, I can tell you the Kevin Bacon kill. That was kind of a moment that caught me off guard because when you see the spear going through him, it hangs there for a while, twisting and turning. Then you see the blood coming out, which of course Tom Savini. Credit to Tom Savini. Yes, blowing through the tube. That's right. It's funny how that it turned out to work better than they had planned. They thought it was a screw up, But
happy accidents, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it was a great scene, and it still looks good to this day. It still looks good. But that scene caught me, and obviously the stinger at the end. The stinger at the end, probably the most, is the thing I remembered the most because you really thought it was over. And the music is all nice, and Adrian King survived, feeling good about life. And the timing of it was great. And when Jason comes out, forget it.
One of the best jump scares of all time, because like you just said, too, a part of that you're under the impression this is done and you feel safe. The cops are there. I'm safe now. The police have arrived on the scene. She's out in the boat. Everything's fine. We're good now. Mrs. Voorhees has been decapitated. She dead. She gone.
She's dead.
But little wormhead boy pops out of the water. Ari Lehman, one of the most unforgettable jump scares of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was great, man. And like I said, when I figured that I could survive that, I was like, I'm off to the races. I've got to watch some of these other things, and that's where it started, man. But like you said, the movie it's the beginning of a really great horror franchise. I think this movie, and we just talked about this one 3 weeks ago. I mean, this movie is still good, but the interesting thing about Friday the 13th, I think the movies got better for quite a few sequels, which is different than like with Halloween or A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, I think those movies had some dips from the original. So it's always interesting to me, especially with those three franchises. I mean, that's what we grew up with, Freddy, Michael, and Jason, you know? So, but yeah, Friday the 13th started it, man.
My Mount Rushmore as a kid was Michael, Jason, Freddy, Chucky. That was my Mount Rushmore right there, man. Like to this day, I've always said, I think that, you know, when it comes to a slasher, Jason will always be my favorite. He'll always be my favorite slasher. When it comes to a horror movie franchise, I think the best one when it comes to quality of content is probably Scream. And when it comes to just my favorite to sit down and watch a franchise, it will always be Child's Play. Child's Play always will do it for me because I myself love comedy. And I think the Child's Play, you know, once you get to, you know, especially 3, a lot of the horror comedy really picks up. And huge fan of Child's Play. Huge fan of Child's Play. But we're talking about my main man, Jason, right now. So we know at night which scene affected you the most from Friday the 13th. But what would you say your favorite scene from the OG was?
Favorite scene was when Pamela was revealed. You know, like every time I see that, I'm just like, wow, this lady is so good in this role. And we all know that, you know, Betsy was not really thinking this was going to be worth a damn doing this role or this movie. But over the years, you know, obviously, sadly, before she passed away, she really understood that this film and that role was what she was going to be mostly remembered for. And she adored the fans, you know, but in that scene, she was scary.
Yeah.
You know, she was crazy and scary. She was crazy, and kind of like Harry Manfredini always had said about her, she knew she was crazy. And that's some scary stuff, man.
Right. So, that makes it even scarier when you know you're crazy. You know you can push the limits and you don't give a shit about the outcome of it. And I've always looked at, you know, Halloween. I'm going to say Halloween. I've always looked at Friday the 13th as a mix between Halloween and Psycho. That's what it's always been to me. Friday the 13th is that perfect mixture of Halloween and Psycho, which, you know, and I'm not going to lie here. As a child, as a young man, I did not like Halloween. Didn't like it. To me, I know it's crazy to hear that, but as a kid, it was boring as shit to me. You know, like it was, and it was white bread. It was boring. It was stabby. You know, like that's all it was to me as a kid. And then as I grow older, you know, I realized that I think Halloween is probably the scariest because it's just a guy. It could be my next door neighbor. You know, it's not some kid that drowned in a lake and turned into a monster or some child killer that got burned up and is getting me in my dreams. This guy could literally live next door to me, man. So like that, and then to add that with Psycho, which is probably in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. It's just such a perfect film. Those two together, you mash them, you get Friday the 13th to me. So we talked about a kill already. Technically, we've talked about 2, but what would you say your favorite kill from Friday the 13th is?
Favorite kill? Well, geez, man, that's a tough one. I would say if I was to have to pick one, well, I love the kill with the axe hitting the light and coming down on what's her name? Was it Lori? No, it's not Lori. God, I can't remember her name. Don't beat me up for being a Friday the 13th fan. I can't remember her name. But
I'm terrible with names in real life and in film, so I get it.
Right? Right? That kill was pretty good because it was kind of drawn out a little bit. You know, she opens the curtains like, I guess no one's there. And then all of a sudden turns around. And I remember Tom Savini was talking about how they wanted that sound of hitting the light. So you had that feeling of that axe having the weight, you know, to it, which totally works. Like your mind elevates so many of these things. And that's why, especially back in those days, these filmmakers and these special effects folks and makeup artists and stuff like that, you really got to applaud them because they were working not only with talent creativity and imagination, but they were always thinking about the viewer, you know, how the viewer was seeing these things. And a lot of it is just magnificent stuff. So much different than CGI, you know? So,
right. And it's funny because I'm not anti CGI. I think if CGI is used properly, it can be a very good tool. But I'm with you. I think practical is the way to go. I've always been a very big fan of practical effects. Now, when you take the practicality and you mix the CGI in to enhance it, I'm all about it. But we're talking about Friday the 13th. Let's talk about Jason Voorhees. Let's talk about Freddy versus Jason. The CGI in that movie is fucking awful. I mean, even when we watched it for the first time, when you see, you know, little stoner version of Jay from Jay and Silent Bob get cut in half in the CGI blood, it looks so bad. Like, I'll take a shitty practical effect over a shitty CGI effect any day of the week, 100 out of 100 times.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Me too. Yeah, it's just crazy because those things, they're so easy to see when it looks bad, you know. Whereas with practical, there's almost a sense of you almost believe it because it's right there in front of your face. And even if it looks cheesy, or maybe if it's not great, you know, you can forgive it in a different way. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because that brings me to my next question, which is Friday the 13th, 2009. I always talk about would you like to see your first horror movie remade? And I'll get to that here in a second, but we kind of had a reboot in 2009. I wouldn't call it a remake because essentially it's Friday the 13th, 1, 2, and 3 all rolled up into one happy ball, essentially. So were you a fan of the 2009 Friday the 13th?
You know, I'm gonna, and of course I'm gonna be covering this too. I liked it. You know, I think that there were some things I would have done differently. I think it was a little too polished for me. But overall, it wasn't bad. You know, they got some of the elements that they needed for a Friday the 13th movie. I thought the opening of it was fantastic. Like, I went to go see it in the theater, and the opening, which is one of the longest opening credit sequences of all time, I was like, wow, that was really great. Especially, you know, when Jason's there with the sack on his head and he's coming and he's starting to swing the machete down and then it cuts. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty good. But yeah, I like it. I don't think it was the best in the franchise. I think there were some things they could have done better, but I did like Derek Mears, his portrayal of Jason. And I think Derek's a great guy. I met him at a convention. Like, holy crap, he is so humble, so cool. I mean, the guy's tall as a tree. He's like that much taller than me, you know, and he's just like, you know, but he's so nice. He's soft-spoken and humble. And his portrayal was really, really good. I enjoyed his portrayal of it. So I still watch it every once in a while, you know?
I'm a huge fan of the '09 remake. Now, again, some of the characters obviously are just meatbags, and I get that, but what you just talked about, that 15-minute opening, is fucking epic. So epic. By the time you guys have watched this, I was joined by Marco Estes and our buddy Bobby Likes It Spooky to count down our top 10 horror openings. And as all you now know, that was on there. So that's how much that opening meant to me. And the thing that sucks about that opening is it's so damn good that the rest of the movie is like, what happened at the beginning? Like, can we go and do that again? Now, obviously we had the '09 remake, but would you like to see a Friday the 13th remake, not with Jason Voorhees? I'm talking about with Pamela Voorhees doing what they did in 1980 as a remake. Again, not including the Jason and the iconic mask that we all know and love so much, but a true remake to the OG. Would you like to see that today?
I would be curious to see, you know, how it would come out. I'm not, you know, dying for it to happen, but I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to it. More so out of curiosity and the love for the original. But if they did it, I think they'd really have to, you know, just show a lot of respect and heart and passion for that original movie, and try to it's hard to even put the words together to try to feel like you could that they were flowing from that inspiration,
Yeah.
you know. And I think if they did that, and if it was practical effects, maybe with just a little bit of CGI to smooth out a couple of little things, I think that it could turn out to be a good experience. You know, if they're coming in and it's just a cash grab and this
Yeah.
and that, which of course with all the lawsuits with Friday the 13th, I'm wondering if they might even do a remake of the original, or if they're going to go into a sequel or reboot or what. But anyways, but I'd be interested in seeing it. I would definitely go and see it for sure,
I just
as a
imagine
fan.
this. Kathy Bates as Pamela Voorhees. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
give me Misery
Yes.
Kathy Bates as Mrs.
Yes.
Voorhees, and she could pull that shit off so
She
good.
could.
Like,
She could. I love Kathy Bates.
Oh my god, me too. Like, I like one of my favorite like horror villains of all time is Kathy Bates in Misery. Like, that is such a scary lady. Like, it's
right.
one of the most effective movies in my lifetime, man. The Wood, with this, oh my god, that still fucks me to this day. But yeah,
I can't even watch it. When they get to that scene, that scene with the hobbling, I still got to kind of, I don't know. But yeah, Kathy Bates, she for me anyway, she can do no wrong. And if she was in it, I'd be, my expectations of it would just rise so much. Yeah. It'd be good.
Not only do you have Kathy Bates like Misery, but if you've seen The Waterboy, you know that she's got a tackle on her too when she tackles Bobby Boucher's daddy there at the end. So she's got the physicality to go along with it. So
you're right, man. I love The Waterboy.
It's me, your daddy. What boy do? I love that shit, dude. I'm with you. Such a big fan of that.
Yes.
So another thing we asked when we're talking about a franchise, and if you can't answer this yet, I understand, because you may not have done this on your channel yet. I don't want to spoil anything. What is your favorite in the Friday the 13th franchise?
Okay, so now this is a complicated answer, and I don't mean it to be complicated. But as a kid growing up, I really loved 3 a lot, right? And I still do. I also really loved 6. And I, for a lot of reasons, even the soundtrack, that Alice Cooper song, the man behind the mask and all that, the James Bond opening, I was just like, yes. But as I've gotten older, I've gravitated a lot to part 4. I think part 4 has so many great elements, like overall as not only a Friday 13th movie, but a slasher horror film, right?
That's what taught me how to dance.
Crispin. Oh my god, man, we just did our episode on Friday 4, and man, everybody in the live chat was like, Crispin Glover, the dance. It was iconic. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably lean to 4. But I absolutely love so many. That's why it's my favorite horror franchise, because I love so many of the movies, even the ones that weren't great, I can still have fun with. But I probably would lean towards 4, but I absolutely love 6. I love 2. I love 3. And like you said, as a kid, I didn't like 5 either. Because I felt gypped. But as I got older, I was like, this is a good movie. Horror movie.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
That's right.
Friday 5 is a perfect, and I'm with you. Like Friday, like up to number 7. Like, oh look, I'm not the biggest fan of Jason Takes Manhattan, but I can watch it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not good. It's not like a movie that it's not The Exorcist 2. I'm not gonna hate it. I adore Jason Goes to Hell. I love that movie. I know not a lot of people do, but I love that. I know, but like you bring the Necronomicon into it, man. You make it canon in the Evil Dead world.
That was cool.
It has its flaws. Don't get me wrong. Like there are definitely flaws to the movie for sure. But it's so special to me. I can't. We recently, you guys can check this out on the channel too. Shameless plug. Did our top 10 favorite horror movie endings of all time, my number one was Jason Goes to Hell. Watching
It was
Freddy's
good.
glove take Jason's dude, I'm telling you, when that came out, that was like Stone Cold Steve Austin's glass breaking. I was like,
Yes.
Like, I was marking out, man. I loved it. To this day, that movie's so special to me. There's not a Friday the 13th film that I think this is god awful. Again, Jason Takes Manhattan when it comes to being, or Jason Takes a Boat to Vancouver, whichever you prefer, is not the greatest of films, but it is entertaining. You know, I think it is a very entertaining film. And I will also say, and I'll fight anybody that wants to fight me on this, Friday the 13th has produced the best fan films of any franchise of all time. Any franchise in any genre. I'll go Star Wars, Star Trek, any franchise of all time. Friday the 13th has made the best fan films, whether it be Vin DeSantis, whether it be my boy Peter Anthony. You know, these people that are out there pounding the pavement, making their Friday the 13th fan films, they're fucking awesome. And
I agree.
You know, we just recently had Roseblood, which is right now the highest rated Friday the 13th ever on IMDb. Awesome. You know,
that is awesome. Nice.
Yeah. Like these fan films are really kicking ass, man. And we talked a lot about Friday the 13th just now, and that being your first horror movie. But now, Night, I kind of want to throw a curveball here for a second. My little buddy Ghostface has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Night? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Okay, all right. So, and I know I got a couple of friends, especially some friend content creators, they're probably going to be ready to jump on me here. Okay, so again, a little bit of a complicated answer. Okay, Friday the 13th got me going into horror, right?
Yeah.
But growing up in the 80s and the 90s, I was going right into a Nightmare on Elm Street territory because that had just come out. And of course, as you know, Freddy got super, super popular. But I also, because of getting deeper into it, I circled back to Halloween. And I started getting into Halloween as well. Now, as a kid, I probably would have said A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite. But as an adult, I'm going to say it's Halloween. I'm going to say it's Halloween. And part of it is because of the simplicity and the execution of the movie. Yeah. Like watching that movie is just like, and it's become like a ritual for me, like every year to watch it right around Halloween time. And I absolutely love the film. I absolutely love it. The first Nightmare on Elm Street was and still is magnificent, a masterpiece. And I love what Wes Craven was able to do with that, as well as the original Scream. But, you know, if I have to pick one, if a gun's pointed at me and I have to pick one, I got to go with Halloween.
Three things I want to add to this. Number one,
okay,
if somebody's pointing a gun at you, telling you to pick your favorite scary movie, it says a lot more about that person than it does you. Pick it now, yes. I swear to God. Number two, the best thing that Halloween ever did was create this motherfucker right here. That is my baby right there. I love Halloween 3.
Yes.
And the third thing I want to add, while it's not my favorite by any stretch of the imagination, I think the best horror movie ever made is the OG Nightmare on Elm Street. I think for the budget they had, the practical effects they used, I'll be honest with you, I've never in my life given anything a 5-star review. That's got a 4.75. And the reason why is because as amazing, and I'm amazing as a Nightmare on Elm Street is, that's how fucking stupid the ending is, with that dumb fucking Freddy car and the blow up doll getting pulled through the window. Like, look, if you end that movie with the bed on fire and the mom and Freddy, perfect movie. The perfect movie, perfect cast. You know, like it does nothing wrong to me.
Right. Well,
but
Bob Shea wanted that stinger. Bob Shea wanted Wes Craven to do it.
Son of a bitch.
See, he was seeing the dollar bills. He was like, we gotta have a stinger.
The funniest part is like we gotta set up a sequel. And the sequel has nothing to do with that ending setup. Like, what are you doing?
Although I will say, and Nightmare on Elm Street as a franchise is very interesting. The beginning of Freddy's Revenge, I thought was really good. Like friggin' going off into the desert and the canyon and the bus teetering on it. When I saw that as a kid, that scared the shit out of me, man.
And I will say, as a kid, another one that I didn't like. I thought it was too dark. Like, and the funny thing is, I have a lot of people that are like, "Oh, that movie's gay," and I'm like, every slasher ever is all about women's titties. If you can't handle 10 minutes of dude ass, says more about you than it does this film. But now that I'm older and I watch it, like, look, I love Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 4 are so interchangeable to me on which one could be my favorite, because I think those are all extremely good movies. No moment will ever top a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 when Freddy's at that. You are all my children now.
See, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You don't ever in any Nightmare on Elm Street movie get Freddy going through a group of people and killing them, because obviously he's in the dreams. But to see Freddy out there just having a massacre is fucking great. Like, oh my God, I got little emo goosebumps right now thinking of how amazing that scene is. You know, you're all my children. Like, that's so dark and so scary. I love it so damn much. Such a great movie. That
he had great phrases. He had great little one-liners. You've got the body, I've got the brain. You know, we've got special work to do, me and you, and da 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 da. And you're all my children now. You know, like, it was great. I think here's my thing, and not to, I know we're getting off here, but if they had kept Freddy scary like that, you know, with you know, a few one-liners here or there, I think he was the best version of Freddy. Like 3 was great. I think Dream Warriors, you know, sometimes I can interchange that for my favorite of the franchise, but that's where you started to see them going more into the comedic, you know, path, which at the time made sense, because that's how he was, you know, he could differentiate him from, you know, Michael and Jason. But they just kept going down that road, and 4 and then 5 is when the wheels just started to kind of come off a little bit. And I was just like, come on, man, like, stop cracking jokes, you know. But part 2, I think it was great because he was saying some one-liners, but he was really dark and scary. Like Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it's got a lot of good stuff in it. It really does. I really like
when you talk about the darkest and scariest Freddy Krueger, Nightmare 2 and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Like, those 2 movies to me are the darkest and scariest Freddys. And I have opinions about the Nightmare remake, but that's a story for another day, because I think that he was able to do something with Freddy Krueger that Robert Englund was never able to do. And I say that and people are like, Robert Englund's perfect. I agree. Robert Englund has a lot of charisma, and he's fun to watch, and we enjoy him. He's a child killer. We're not supposed to. Like, the new Freddy made you hate Freddy Krueger, and that's what we're supposed to do. Robert Englund could never make us hate him because he's so full of charisma and he's such a great, you know, like, the Freddy he was, you couldn't hate. He was on like Nickelodeon shows, like getting slimed, like, you damn kids. I knew I was justified. You know, but the new one, like, there was no love for that Freddy at all. You were just like, fuck this guy. And I think that really turned a lot of people off. But it's like, guys, this is how we're supposed to feel. He's a child killer. He's not supposed to be doing Dorito commercials next to John Elway. You know, like, come on, man.
I agree, man. But Jackie Earle, he did a smart thing. He didn't try to copy Robert, right? Because you can't out Robert. So Jackie Earle Haley went down that dark path, and he's good in that type of role anyways. He was great as Rorschach in Watchmen, to me. So I think he was great in the movie, but the movie, and that's another story, but the movie just had some missed opportunities. It wasn't horrible, but that's another story. But Jackie was good as Freddy in it.
And like I said, he did what Robert Englund couldn't do and made me hate the guy I'm supposed to hate. So, man, I've had so much fun with you, learning a lot about who you are as a person and how horror started for you. But all good things must come to an end. Now, before the credits roll, I got one last question for you, Knight. We're going to go back to Friday the 13th. And what we're going to do is rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not being critics. We're not judging it on score, acting, production, nothing like that. And I think I know the answer, but I got to ask the question. What we're doing is just judging this movie strictly on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being the worst, not effective. 5 being very effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of Friday the 13th be?
Based on how it affected me, I gotta go with 5. I gotta go with 5. You
have
know?
to.
I have to, because if it wasn't for that, I don't know how long it would have been until I got into the horror genre. You know, it's the one that I overcame. It's the one that had, you know, scary moments that I overcame. You know, I met Adrienne King, and she was just so enamored with my story. And I was like, yeah, that scene at the end, it messed me up. And, you know, she's a wonderful person. But yeah, I got to give it 5, man. It's got to be 5.
And it's unfortunate what happened to her in real life after the film.
Right?
Like, it's just, it fucking sucks, man.
Yes.
And people have to learn the boundaries of being a human being. Just because you're an actor doesn't mean you're not a human being. And it's really sad, you know, because I would have loved to have seen her in 13 Fanboy. She had to drop out because it was too real for her. And I get it, man. Like, look, I love you, Adrian, and I'd love to see you in it, but your fucking mental health is way more important than any film out there that we could make. So
absolutely.
Again, the credits are about to roll, guys. The third act is over. So I got to remind you again, there's these links in the description that have not been clicked yet. So click them now and make sure you're subscribing and following on social media. Night, don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.
Peace.